Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm swell, Bob. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It is the last SquadCast of the year. We have made it through. This is episode 72. We
Wow.
have done 46, I think, or 45 shows this year with a ton of people. It's been a heck of a year. And everybody who's out there listening and watching this later, thanks for doing that. And we already have guests lined up for next year. If you stay to the end of the show, we will tell you who our first guest is. We have that already set and logged in the image generator. But thanks
Bob's
everybody.
having fun with our studio setup.
Listen, I'm trying to make us look professional as best as possible. I don't expect high reward. I don't expect to get all the way there, but I'm trying to make us as respectable as possible, as opposed to people in Washington.
Yeah, very good. I've tried that whole respectable thing. Not very hard because it just isn't fun.
Yeah. Well, I also thanks everybody for being here on Thursday. We've tried to get as much in as we can. We're definitely going to be with you guys on Tuesdays next year. We are going to mix in Thursdays when they work. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's a con, sometimes there isn't.
For you, there's always a con.
Well, speaking of cons, this is like kind of like what we this is I was at. For people who follow our social media, I usually put up a I'm going to be at show thing and where we're going to be and what we're doing at shows. But this is a partial list of the shows that I and or Mike attended this year. I think there's a couple of extra Galaxy Cons that I was at that did not make it into this list because I think I hit 4.
How many Galaxy Cons are there?
There are a lot, but I think I hit 4 of them because I think that the Raleigh isn't in here, and thought there was one more. I think there was one more.
You are such a comics bon vivant.
Well, listen, it's a lot of fun. If people who are watching have an opportunity to go to a comic convention, I will wholeheartedly recommend it. It's if you haven't done that, you should. If you've done it, you don't need to keep doing it.
I tease Bob because I'll tease anybody for any reason whatsoever. But I've been through phases like that of my life where every weekend or almost every weekend, usually somebody was paying me, but I was at a convention, working.
I'm trying to get on that train.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to do it the way I did. I love conventions. The problem is, as I've said before, my whole life has been one long, never-ending comic book convention. That started in the late '60s, and they've gotten more and more crowded, but the venues have not gotten any larger. So that's
I'm sure they've gotten larger.
You've been to, you haven't been to San Diego.
Well, I mean, but also they're not in hotel ballrooms for the most part, except SPX. Of all the shows, there was also a small show that I went to in Austin that was on that list that didn't make it to the list. But like SPX is the only show on that list that's in a ballroom.
You see, I like those shows.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying
I love those shows because there's a certain sense of intimacy. And when you talk with, fans, with people you don't know, as well as old friends, and going to conventions is a wonderful way to stay in touch with your friends if they happen to go to conventions. It's much more relaxed, It's really about comics, or it's about whatever it is we happen to be talking about, and we happen to be talking about comics all the time at a comic book convention. So, and what was that?
So Sherry's keeping us honest, telling us that Ithacon, we were at Ithacon and that's in a ballroom. But then Jamar popped in and said Ithaca is gorgeous, which is like the weird. That's the weird logo of the town of Ithaca because there's a lot of gorges.
Oh, I'm so glad I never saw that driving into Ithaca.
Well, there's like stickers and stuff in there. I'm gonna, I don't know how long he's gonna stay around, but there will be an appearance, at least in digital format, of Jamar Nicholas by the end of the show. So I'm just putting that out there.
I see.
We're foreshadowing now. We were talking earlier about how many, and we've got a lot to get through in our pre-segment, guys. So thanks for being here. I did a little thing. I put together, kind of at the end of the year, we start looking at stuff. I'm trying to put together some end of year lists for the site. So stay tuned to popculturesquad.com to do that. But I did figure out how many people we had on the show this year. And I want to we're going to run through this. So take a look at this list, Mike.
All right.
It's going to go for a while.
Well, certainly we did.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, some wonderful memories.
Yeah. See, that's the whole point. You get to remember all of these great shows. And if you haven't seen these shows, they're all available. Just go to the Pop Culture Squad cast live podcast that's on our YouTube channel, and they're all listed there.
Did you have Shelley on that list twice?
No, I did not. I had Philip on the list.
I saw Philip, yeah. So
no, I don't think Shelley was on twice. I tried to remove doubles because our guest tonight, if I haven't said that, I don't think I have. Thom Zahler is going to be on our show tonight. We're going to talk about his year and what he has coming up next year. I think this is his third appearance of the year. Tim Seeley was on twice. Ed was on 2 or 3 times. I think Dean was on 2 or 3 times. We have our favorites. We have people who are return guests and visitors.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't say they're favorites. These are people we know and love and like to broadcast with. But there are plenty of people out there that we have never seen in our lives that would be terrific guests.
Absolutely.
Some of them are even alive.
There are some who aren't alive who would be terrible guests, too. You got to go both ends of the spectrum.
I can actually think of a few people who are dead who would be much better guests that way.
Well, that's true. Much better guests that way. Yep. All right. Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been a big year. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the world. We hope everybody stays sane. We'll get through all of the problems that anybody's having out there, but there's a lot going on in comics and in pop culture. So as we do on this show, we have some in our opening segment. A lot of times we talk about cool stuff, and this is going to be one of those times because we're going to mention some cool stuff. See, I'm playing.
Just itching to press that button.
I was itching. So we got cool stuff. What kind of cool stuff are we going to talk about right now?
Well, let's talk about Dean, but it can't be behind his back.
Oh, well, he's here. We can talk about Dean.
Yeah, I
know. So no, we're going to talk about the news of the day. And that's this. The Superman trailer has dropped. It is a teaser trailer, which means that there will be even more longer trailers. Hopefully not too many. One more will be fine. But it was really good.
However, did they not drop a teaser for the teaser?
There was a teaser for the teaser. We got to get used to that. We have teasers for teasers.
And what do we do before that? When did the bubblegum cards come out? That's all I care about.
Yeah, I'm gonna post Dean's epic poetic edda here. In Richard Donner's Superman movie, Lois Lane is falling from a skyscraper and Superman catches her mid-fall. He says something like, "Don't worry, I've got you," and she says something like, "You've got me. Who's got you?" James Gunn answers that question in his new Superman movie trailer. which I saw you post that earlier, Dean, and I thought it was great because I know the answer. The answer is, and this should be this. I've told you this, Mike, that I think that the tagline to this movie should be, "Do you believe a dog can fly?"
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I know cats can fly, but only when they want to.
Well, you
Dogs
know,
will fly to make you happy.
we're gonna have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dogs will fly just to make you happy.
Right. We're gonna have to wait, I think, for the cat flying probably for another year or two, right? When we get to Supergirl.
And then we'll see a horse flying.
Well, there has to be a horse flying.
There has to be.
You can't tell the story without the horse. I think,
No.
but Streaky was in there too, so we'll get to all of it. But anyway, the fun part is here that this trailer was out. I know Mike hasn't seen it, but it is a lot of fun. It has made everyone pretty happy. I've seen minor incel complaints. I don't care about them, but most people who I care about are pretty happy with it, and I am as well. I don't need to see any more. I'm ready to buy my ticket and sit in the theater on July 11th, and it'll be good.
It drops on
July 11th.
Huh.
Less
for
than
some
6
reason,
months.
I thought it was earlier.
Nope. So,
tell them about the dog that's flying.
Which dog that's flying? So you want me to spoil the trailer?
No, there are photos of the
well,
dog.
I mean, if you haven't seen the trailer, I'll tell you. Crypto is in this movie, and it's been a factor of what James Gunn has wanted to do for this movie for a while. He has stated very early on, people to get ready, that Crypto is in it. Crypto is kind of based on his dog, which is a rescue. He looks great, but in this trailer, Kal-El relies on Crypto to help him. And he's a good boy.
I mean, that's the way it should be. For reasons I never understood about myself, I loved those earliest Crypto stories. I was probably the right age for it. I was about 6 when Crypto got his start.
Well, you were 5.
Thank you. I was told there's no math, so thank you.
Well, I'll do it for you.
Okay, thanks. I wasn't that big a Superboy fan. I liked some of the Superboy stories enormously, particularly the ones where he had to learn how to make his superpowers work. And his father would help him and all this other. And I thought that was really interesting. But the rest of it was sort of like, no, that's not Luther. Luther's this bald guy. You're not gonna kill the guy. He becomes Superman. Which is the standard complaint about Superboy, is that you know the ending. Whereas that doesn't bother me, and I was wholly behind for decades DC's printing the Brave and Bold story that Mike Fleischer wrote with Batman and Jonah Hex that sat on a shelf for maybe 10 years. Because people were afraid Jonah was already dead in the story, and they were afraid that, people would think, well, we know he's not going to get killed in the comic book. Well, no, but the comic book is set in the 1800s. We know he's going to get killed or die one way or another.
Yeah.
And it was such a bizarre story anyway. I was fortunate enough to read it, and a decade before it was printed. And the ending was just one of the best endings I ever read in a crossover book.
Good.
Spoiler alert: if you're about to reread your Brave and Bold collection, this you might not want to listen to this. But Jonah being dead is found in a museum, having been stuffed for a party, not a party, what do you call them? Exhibitions, museums. They used to do that a lot in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And to make a very long and really good story short, the bad guys get into a gunfight with Batman. Somebody slams into the Jonah Hex corpse, who's on a pedestal, and he falls over and saves Batman's life.
Yeah,
that's just the greatest ending ever. That's just a great ending. You don't want to make it weak, but
of course it is. It's this issue, right?
Oh, I knew you'd find it. Yeah, I believe so.
Yep. It's 191.
Yeah. Yeah, because it ran to 200.
It is it's good. And I think there was an episode of the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon with Jonah Hex. I don't know if it was exactly the same story or they adapted that story, or if it was completely new, but
it was clearly
adapted,
written by people who had read the story.
Right. All right, I want to do some more cool stuff before we get to our guest, and this one is
a new book.
What?
I want to plug a new book.
Okay, which book do you want? I know which one you want to plug.
Yes, I'll bet
you're right. Start talking about it. I'll get it up on the screen.
Okay, I'll bet you're right though. I'll bet you got this one.
You start talking.
Okay. Hey, how about them Mets? Aren't they doing great? Wow.
Hang on.
This is a book that I was waiting for eagerly. And it's part of a series of books that I have been enjoying. That's it.
Is this it? Flash Gordon Adventures?
Yeah, the audio guys have done a Flash Gordon graphic novel that is in every respect true to both Flash Gordon and to the Oh Yeah team. Truth be known, these are the only people whose work I've ever read on Teen Titans that was better than Marvin George's. It's these guys are insane. Their attitude is wonderful. The story is great, and it's funny, but it's mostly stupidly clever.
That's awesome. I mean, you sent me one of the jokes, one of the little panel setups in it, and it was funny. I haven't read it yet, but it is. I'm a big fan of these guys. They really get how to tell a story, how to tell a joke, how to make a comic, and absolutely, I don't think that Paper Cuts could have made a better choice to put Flash Gordon in the hands of kids.
I absolutely agree with you. Plus, the Oh Yeah guys have their own style, their own technique. Absolutely, you can cut it with a Black & Decker chainsaw. That's how thick it is, and it works. Whatever they apply it to, it's because of them, not because of the technique they came up with. Just makes it work. They know how to time out their stories because of their approach. It's beautiful.
All right, there's this thing going on Kickstarter. I didn't know this was a thing until very recently. But when a project is complete and it has been funded, the people who run the campaign can extend the campaign and get after backers. Let me make sure that I get the actual word. There's a word. Late pledges.
No, I like after backer.
I know, but they're called late pledges. So there are a couple of Kickstarters that ended that we didn't get to talk about while they were live, but they are still being extended. Wait, hold on. Before we get to that, I'll get back to you, Dean. We'll come back. So yeah. So these are some Kickstarters that they've ended already. They're done. They ended in the last week or so, but you can still back them because they were completed. These are things we wanted to get to, but with time and we've been very busy. So I want to talk about them. I want to give them a minute and we'll put the links to these Kickstarters in the comments so you can get that. And Dean's going to create a Kickstarter called Afterbacker, and I think that sounds perfect. I think that's perfect.
Trademark it, Dean. Trademark it.
Definitely. All right, but before we get too far down the road, this one is issue 2 or volume 2 of Sherlock Holmes and the Empire Builder, the Gene Genie, which is written by Joel Meadows, and there's great covers on this volume. It is just Andy Bennett does the art. I backed issue 1. I backed issue 2. Issue 1 was really good. I want people to know that they can still get access to this great book, Sherlock Holmes and the Empire Builders. This Dan Panosian is great. This cover right here. But yeah, so like I said, if the funding ended on December 13th, but you can still go ahead and say, hey, I haven't backed this yet, but I still want an opportunity to, and you can do it.
For the past millennium or so, the writer, Joel, has been producing this phenomenal magazine called Tripwire. And it's about comics. And we used to call those things fanzines. But this one is so slick and professional and has been forever that I got to call it a magazine just because
it is.
It is. That's exactly what it is. I always enjoy seeing Joel at conventions and what have you. He's usually a little poop because he walked over from London.
Yeah, but it's a long walk. Sometimes
it's a long
his arms
walk.
are tired too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sympathetic, but I have not read his Sherlock Holmes yet. I have it here. I have the first one here.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why.
Well, now is your opportunity. Like I said, I read it. I thought it was interesting. I'm really excited for him to branch out. And, besides being a fantastic editor of one of the premier, comics related journalistic magazines that there is, he's a pretty good writer. The story is interesting. It's very interesting because he takes on, it's very similar to it's similar in certain ways to the Robert Downey Jr. and Sherlock Holmes, because it's not really Sherlock Holmes, but it's like, oh, if we wanted to tell a different story that's a little bit more modern than what we had, it might look like this. And I think it's at the end of his career kind of thing, so it's in that range. It's good. I enjoy it. So I want to tell people to get there.
Sherlock has been around, obviously. He's been around forever. And
about 150 years by now.
Yeah, and a million stories, most of which, or many of which were done by its creator, and a billion movies, some of which are good, some of which were knocked out, as B flicks. Some very good talent. And as you point out, when the movie came out, we also had this, which I love, both movies. We also had the television series, which was a bit surreal, and I loved even more. No slight against anybody on the movie, just a preference. So I'm interested in seeing what a Sherlock Holmes story looks like after, in the wake of all that.
I'm good. It's good. I've already, not been paying attention, and we've moved on to the next thing that you can back late. if you see here, it says this project successfully funded on December 18th, but you can still late pledge for available rewards. That's what you would have seen on the previous page with Sherlock Holmes, but I've already backed that on the front side. This one I haven't backed yet because I haven't figured out which one I want. And I'm going to figure it out. But
what is the difference between the two?
Okay, well, so this, like I said, so this page you're seeing, I have not backed yet. So you get this thing up here that says this project successfully funded, but you can still late pledge for available rewards, right? So I can still back this project. The previous one, it already says here, I'll show you. So it already says doesn't have me that option because I've already backed it. I'm already a backer. I don't have the option to late pledge. So we'll go back to this one.
It's nice that they're so considerate. They understand that people who might fund Kickstarters might fund a lot of Kickstarters, and we might forget.
Yeah.
So it's nice
here,
of them to remind you you've already
already done it. You've already done that. Exactly. This one though, this is for this is for people of my generation. This is the DC Heroes role-playing game. They have refurbished it, put together a new version. It's not a version. It is the existing version. There's version 1 and version 2. There are all the different playbooks for the DC Heroes role-playing game. There's a couple of dice. It was card-based. It came out in like 1980, early mid to 80s. Did you work on this at all?
I did, only to the extent of consulting with some of the folks who worked on it.
Right.
To make sure the characters are right and straight. Although they at least the work that I was involved in, they were great. I had very little to say. However, I did know where their offices were. I used to, it wasn't far from First Comics, actually, a couple miles. And 2 or 3 of my favorite restaurants near there. So I have an affinity for these people, even though it's all long gone.
So yeah, like one of the things for this, the Cryptozoic Entertainment people got back together with Ray Winninger, who was the co-designer of DC Heroes role-playing game and former executive producer of Dungeons and Dragons, obviously. So they've gone through the process of refurbishing, enhancing all of the character source books and cards. There's some specialized pieces that are part of this in terms of, so you can get the game, you can get either the first edition or the second edition, and then you can get source books that come with them in terms of bundles. I have some of the original of these source books already, so I got to figure out which bundle I need to get. That's why it's been taking me so long.
I've got several of them here. I haven't seen them in years, so they may have driven away or something. I don't know.
They've done a great job with this. They've raised a ton of money, so they also don't need my money, but I really want it. So that's why I want to, let people know that if you're in the boat that I was, and you're like, it's a lot of, it's a little expensive. Robert, kind of says, had to pass on it despite loving the game. I agree with him. It was hard. I think I might get there because now I have this opportunity. But there are some great things, like here are the oversized dice that they have you can choose from. There's a dice tray and this special screen with some bookmarks, all kinds of great stuff. I just want people to know that this exists out there. There's a certain limited amount of time. You can still get there and get your return to your childhood and get your 40th anniversary copy, refurbished copy of the DC Heroes role-playing game.
Did I see the Blackhawk module?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe there is a Blackhawk module.
I thought I noticed it as you were scrolling by.
Let me get to it. There's Yeah, let me go through this. Some of these are all these are play modules. There's a Green Arrow one too.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the
Yeah, there we go.
the Blitzkrieg one, the Blackhawk one with Howard Chaykin art.
Yeah, I like that.
Did you?
I like that. I like the coloring of that. I really like that cover.
Did you? So you didn't? You even when you were at DC and they were doing like kind of the play modules, because you were there by the time they were doing the play modules, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then the second edition source books, and some more second edition modules. Like this is definitely some. I mean, just the covers of these are pretty cool. Like here's what I was talking about. There's this this one, the I don't know if you can see the Lines of Death, Grell Green Arrow play module. Yep. So anyway, it's there. It's stuff that you can see. I'm giving it to you. If you go into the comment section, you will see the links to it. If you guys want to take a shot at it, and Robert's coming back with some more thing. He believes that the Black Off module was based on the Chaykin story, which makes sense since his art's on the cover. We don't want to really tell Howard that because I don't know if he got paid for it. So
I think I don't recall there being payment programs.
I'm sure there wasn't. Yeah, that's why I don't want to bring it up too much.
Well, somebody tell Howard that we were talking about him, and then if he didn't get paid, he will let us know.
I'm sure he will. Like I said, it's been a great year. And those are two things that are still going on this year. But there's some things that are coming out next year that I want to talk about because we still have a moment. Because, like I said, we're here for you guys to ask us questions, to listen to what we say. We're going to have a great conversation with Thom once he gets into the green room, which I assume is soon. I need to check out that. Maybe we're missing something.
Maybe he's in your living room.
He might be.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna have to give him a link. So give me 1 sec while we get him in here because he's a little late.
You're looking for a whole new thing to talk about.
I do. I have more things to talk about.
Next year, 2025, what is the most spectacular thing you're looking forward to?
Well, it's probably Superman.
The movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff though coming from comics. I want to talk about some of the stuff that Oni has coming out. Actually, it's not necessarily the most exciting thing, but it is definitely coming. Oni has put together a list of some great creator-owned books, and I want to look at them while we wait for our guest to get here. It is quite the list.
Right. Yeah, prove it.
All right, here we go. Some of them we've already talked about. That's the best part.
Which one?
Not the first one. Not the first one, but so the first one, and these are in the order that they're coming out. So in February, there's a book coming out called "Mine Is a Long Lonesome Grave" by Justin Jordan and Chris Sheehan, which it looks great. I will get to some of the stuff, but we have this got announced in March. There's Out of Alcatraz by Christopher Cantwell and Tyler Crook, which is a team for the ages. Plague House is coming out in April by Michael Conrad and Dave Chisholm, and Michael Conrad is making some amazing comics. His most recent book came out this past last week called In Bloom from Bloom Studios. If you haven't read that book, please go check it out. It is terrifyingly amazing. He and I are negotiating getting him on the show in the early spring or late winter so that we can talk about some of his stuff. But this one we talked about, which has now been announced, The Goddamn Tragedy by Chris Condon and Sean Kuranuru. I think I did that pretty good, Kuranuru. But this is Chris Condon's book that he mentioned when we had him on a couple of weeks ago. So this is quite a list of indie creators getting a chance to put their stuff out. I've heard a lot of good things about what Oni was trying to do. They've continued to do that, and this runs us through May with 5 new creator-owned books that we're kind of excited for. I am, at least.
If that's the cover, that is one beautiful, brilliant cover.
Oh, that is the cover.
Then it's beautiful and brilliant.
All right. Our guest is here. We're going to get to him in 1 second. I just want to take 1 second because it is our last show of the year. One of the things we do on this show, and I hope I didn't fade out there, but one of the things we do on this show is we talk about the good things, but we also talk about the things that aren't so great. And when people pass, we take a minute to remember them. And I just want to take a minute, and there's a reason for it, to remember the folks that we've highlighted this year who have passed, and just keep that in mind.
That's always tough.
Sure.
I know that, like, for example, that segment on the Oscars is probably the highest rated part of the show,
sure,
historically speaking. And that's good. We need to remember those who've made such major contributions to our lives. And all the folks you just noted have done that. I worked with about 6 of them, I think. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about, well, that person was a crawling piece of shit. But the fact of the matter is, all of them were fantastic people. And, I will no longer have the thrill of walking into a convention and seeing Ramona Fred.
Yeah.
Which the thrill that I've had after COVID, for crying out loud. Oh, was she not like 99 or something when she died?
She was 96.
96. Well, I was close.
It was close. Listen, I do have the thrill of every time I walk from my kitchen into my dining room, seeing Ramona Fradon's art.
Yeah,
I have two sketches above the doorway, and so every time I walk in, I get to see it. It's one of the thrills of my life. So, but one of the things that we, in this world that we live in, that we don't quite understand, and we try our best to get through. You never know what that really means, and our guest tonight kind of has done some work that we're going to be getting in our hands pretty soon, related to the afterlife. So we're segueing here.
So you're saying that he's come back to tell us about it?
Well, I think he's got some insight, and we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
So welcome once again to the SquadCast, Thom Zahler.
Hey there.
Hello. Hey, do I
Hey,
know how to
Tom.
segue or what?
Yeah, I've never really been accused of having insight before. That's cool.
Well, let's start here. Let us start talking about Ghost Whiskerers.
Okay.
I have been I've been waiting for this for a long time. Here's what it says. This is what the solicits say.
Okay.
Written and illustrated by Thom Zahler. Ghost Whiskerers offers young readers a colorful, fast-paced, and often mysterious story about Daniel and his family who moved from Tacoma, Washington, Tacoma, Washington from Boston, leaving Daniel to struggle to make friends at school. Things get very interesting. I want to, before you even get, I don't know if you've read all this. I'm sure you have, but here are the praises from Sandy King Carpenter, who is the publisher of Storm King Comics, which is where this is being published. Selecting the right story for young readers can be tricky, but as soon as Thom shared the Ghost Whiskerers with us, we knew it was a perfect fit. Thom has created a big-hearted, vastly entertaining story that becomes even more special with this candy-colored artwork and delightful characters who present a story that is ultimately lands with deep emotional impact. Yes. Let us start with this. Where did you come up with this story of Ghost Whiskers, and what can you tell us about the plot?
The sixth floor of the Seattle Convention Center.
Mm-hmm.
I was there at the first post-COVID convention, and the show was a little slow, but Sandy was there, and I'd been pitching her a bunch of stuff, and nothing was landing. So I went downstairs and talked to her for a bit and found out exactly what she was looking for. She's super smart. She was looking for a young reader's book because Storm King does a lot of horror, and they do really well, except on Sunday, which is Kids Day. And then they didn't have anything in that demographic. She wanted something that let kids know it was okay to like scary stuff. So yeah, so I went upstairs. I had some alone time at my table, and I came up with a bunch of stuff. And I actually drew out the pitch for Ghost Whiskerers there and brought it down to her, and she bought it as I presented it to her.
Wait a minute. You had sufficient downtime in a big city convention to create from whole cloth a brand new concept, which you did and sold on the spot.
It wasn't a great show.
I'm
also very fast, but yes, it was.
I admire that, Tom. That's really cool.
I don't like wasting time.
No. By the way, this is my older cat, our cat. And she's been slowly but surely sort of feeling more comfortable in front of the camera. So if you're wondering what that furry black blob is, that's Penny the cat.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's kind of cool about this book, and I'm just gonna I've read this book. I read it as it was being made, and I've read it when it's done. So I've read it. Is that your cats are in it?
They are.
You drew you got to immortalize your cats, and they are the main characters essentially. Yes,
my cats Mal and Halloween, which are not in the room. I have the studio locked, so we'll see if they start banging on the door at some point. I came to have pets really, only a few years ago. I liked them way more than I thought I would, and they're just, they're constant companions, and they hang out with me while I'm working. So when I thought about doing a cat comic, I had to do them, and they have their own personalities, and I amped them up with the color patterns and their general attitude are very much like the cats that I have. And now that makes them a deductible reference expense.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. Everything you spend on this book is because everything you spend on them, they're you have to take care of your moneymaker, right?
Yes.
Look, my tax returns when I had a full-time comic book life were so complex because I tried to deduct everything. I mean, every breath of air.
Mm-hmm.
that I was asked once, not by my accountant, my accountant knew what was going on, asked once if I was worried about being audited because it was so thick and so weird. And I says, yeah, but I'll pay for the audit by selling the movie rights.
So, tell the listeners, like, what is in your words, what is Ghost Whiskerers about?
Oh,
how do you describe it to folks?
For me, it's about cats that see ghosts and then the boy that helps them out. Yeah, there's all sorts of like fairy tales and literature about cats seeing ghosts. The original title for the book was Kit TV, because cats tend to look at stuff and you call it cat TV or kitty TV. It wasn't the right title for the book, but basically it's explaining what they're staring at. And the idea is that the cats have to help ghosts get from one place to another. And the book is very careful in not saying, like, we never say that the characters died. Sometimes they're ghosts. I think mostly referred to as spirits. We don't really talk about where they were. We don't talk about where they're going. Like, that stuff is all user definable. So it's not, this person was killed this way, kids. It's all. I'm a big fan of the Haunted Mansion at Disney World. So like that kind of aesthetic, kind of the fun, kind of scary is where I started with it. So yeah, I thought about cats seeing ghosts, and then the boy Daniel is loosely based on my nephew. So I just threw everything I knew in it.
There you go. You're just gonna write it all off. But
someone else writes him off.
He's going to want royalties.
He definitely is.
The cats probably won't.
They are not impressed. I show them pictures and they just walk away.
Yeah, show them some food.
I just want so I need to Robert said that's a weird segue, Bob. I don't think my segue is that weird now that we've explained how the cats and the ghosts work.
Yeah.
So I think I was a pretty good segue.
Yeah. Well, to each his own.
Thank you. So this book comes out in February, right? Mm-hmm. If you are watching, or if you're watching this now or later, before Monday the 23rd, go to your local comic shop and you can pre-order it by saying you want it, because that's the final order cutoff for comic shops. It will also be available to pre-order on stormkingcomics.com. What was it like working with this publisher? You haven't worked with them before. How was that experience for you?
Oh, they're fantastic. I'm hoping to do more stuff with them. They were very supportive of the idea. Midway through the book, my parents decided to have health adventures, which knocked me back, and they were very accommodating to that. My parents are doing much better now. And yeah, it's been fun. They're really appreciative of my voice in ways that kind of spooks me. I probably would have had more revisions on my script than they did, but they were happy with it. It's rare that I turn something in and it goes that smoothly.
Well, we're trying the new video, new view.
Wow, I can shave.
Yeah, it's good. So yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Storm King. I think that they fill a void. I like them. I like them to continue on doing what they're doing.
Where are they located?
They're in California, because they're based out of. Yeah.
I mean, you're aware that it's Sandy King Carpenter, as in John Carpenter's wife.
No, but okay.
There you go. So they're wherever John is where they are.
Yes,
I see what you're saying. Okay, I got it. Now I understand. I thought it was something to do with like the drones or something. And
yeah, hopefully we'll they're only on the East Coast. Tom doesn't. He's like
I'm in the Midwest.
In the Great Lakes, they don't go to those.
I think that we're around Wright-Patterson Airport Air Force Base in Dayton, though.
Oh, well.
They shut down airspace for a bit.
They were over here in Fairfield, Connecticut, which is about 10 miles north of me. And this is when I found something brand new to be angry with our next president about, because he wants to shoot them down. And the ones that were in Connecticut, at least, and by the way, they're all over the world, not just America. The ones in Connecticut were flying over the parking lot of the train station. It's a huge parking lot. I mean, they could build a sports arena there. That's just they already have the parking lot. And the station, as most commuter stations are, the station is in, the downtown area. So it's a central business district. And it's also right on I-95, which, in addition to being the most horrible road on earth, goes from, many places, but from all the way down our coast. So Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Baltimore, Washington,
Thank you.
and so on.
I can throw a rock and hit it. That's not far from here.
Yeah.
The drone would get in the way, though.
The drones might get in the way. They'll shoot it down. They'll shoot down my rock.
I don't want to see them shooting down things from the sky over humans. That seems like a mistake.
You need a team that shot down those balloons over last summer.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. If you're going to shoot any mechanical object right now, take those goddamn Muskmobiles, the ones that don't have windows and are just.
I think they're a distraction on the road.
Well, they are.
Literally, I was on the road yesterday. I was driving. I had a passenger in the car, and one passed, and we stopped the conversation as we're driving, and everybody, in the car, just kind of like paid attention to the Cybertruck driving down, and we're like, it's so stupid. It looks like it comes out of Minecraft, and it's a distraction.
It's like Fractal's gone mad. It's. I've seen a few of them. I think they're different ones around here, just a couple. But who would know? They all look alike anyway. And the most charitable thing I can say about them is if you painted them a dark, dark, dark shade of blue, then maybe you can convince somebody that Batman is inside. Maybe.
I don't.
I kind of follow the Kyle Baker model. They're easy to draw.
That is so Kyle too.
Yeah.
So again, we'll probably come back to this one more time, but Ghost Whiskerers comes out in the beginning of February 5th. It's available in comic shops and shortly after in all stores. Online on February 18th.
That's a great title, by the way. A great name.
Ghost Whiskerers.
You decided to change it to that. You made the right
Yes,
decision.
my editors came up with the title. We went through a couple different versions. I am very happy with it.
I'm just looking forward to it actually coming out, so when I can type it into Google, when I can type it into Google, and I don't get to see the Ghost Whisperer. I just wanted to not autocorrect that. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be like
Love Hewitt.
Yeah, no more I'm gonna type Ghost Whisperer and I'm gonna see Thom Zahler instead of Jennifer Love Hewitt. That's what's gonna
lateral move.
Definitely.
That's cute. That's cute. You said a word that really starts me off on a
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Lateral.
And that is this spell wrecker.
Oh.
The spell wrecker programs are the second worst thing in America.
But they were. I always fought against them when I was writing My Little Pony scripts because weirdly they didn't know who Fluttershy was.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem
it's
is
like I'm on the phone and I'm typing something and I use a nasty word that they don't like. It's
like I copied like half of the stuff we're talking about tonight into my notes app that I'm looking at, and like there's like so much red and underscores.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like whiskerers. If it's all caps though, they're fine with it.
Okay.
All caps, it's okay. I think that's why the solicits are in all caps, because then they don't have to worry about it.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But anyway, we're looking forward to that. But there was more stuff since you were on right before you went to San Diego in the summer, and at
Okay.
San Diego there was an announcement, so we haven't talked about it yet, and you are
Oh,
working
yeah.
on
Angry Birds.
on this book. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so how's that? You're going to be drawing 3 graphic novels of Angry Birds, published by Rocket Ship Entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going?
It's going
I
well.
mean,
It's a different process. Hasbro had a very streamlined process at IDW to go through approvals. We're still kind of working some of the kinks out on Angry Birds, but I'm finally in a zone where everybody's been supportive of what I'm doing, but I think I've finally had the tumbler drop in my brain about how to draw the characters. And it's one of the few things I've drawn that I haven't written. And that's been a lot. It's been interesting and a lot of fun to work with. It's, using a different set of muscles, but on the other hand, it's also nice not to be completely in charge of the entire project, because there's a lot of my projects are like that, where, I've got the reading enjoyment of 430 people depending on my every move. So
I've been asked the question, how do I like working with other people not in a editorial position? In other words, I'm working for an editor or with an editor, and my response is genuine, it's truthful, and it's always the same. What a relief.
No, I mean, it's been a while. I mean, just to share, there was a project that you did work on where you were doing just the art, and that never happened.
Oh yeah.
But this is a different thing. You and I've talked about this, how this project's working. I know it seems to be definitely working better than that project was,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh, very much
so. And I think it's interesting because you get to flex different muscles, and stuff we can't talk about, where you may just be writing and not drawing. We can't talk about that.
I can neither confirm or deny.
We cannot confirm or deny, but we will talk about it once we can. But so, like, as a cartoonist who is amenable to using all of your skills, as whether it's a writer or a letterer or an artist, you do all of those things separately and together. Like, how does is that fulfilling to kind of branch out all of your pieces in that way?
Yeah, it kind of depends what part of the chain I'm in. It took me a while to figure out with My Little Pony how to write for another artist, because there's a lot of problems that I could leave the drawing version of me to figure out, knowing, if I need to move these panels around, I can, that kind of thing, where I had to be a lot more clear. And also with the pony scripts, they had to go to Hasbro, so Hasbro had to sign off on those. So that was a different, clunkier process. When you're further down on the chain, like with lettering, you can kind of relax and just worry about the specifics of that craft. So you're not worrying about everybody else down the road. You can focus on the thing that you're working on, rather than all the problems you're causing for somebody else.
Well, you brought up lettering, and I kind of want to talk about it because it's lettering.
You can see his ears perk up when you say lettering.
We talked about lettering. So you're
first work out of art school.
Well, so on Tuesday we had another Kubert graduate, or student at least, who is now a professional letterer and writer. We had Joe Caramagna on the show, and we spent some time talking about High Eisma, and I know that you have similar thoughts about it. What was your experience with High?
What's weird is I didn't have High for lettering.
You didn't?
I didn't know. I had him for sequential illustration in second year. Second
Okay.
or third year, yeah.
So who taught you lettering?
Hal Campagna, who drew Bringing Up Father with Jigs and Maggie. I'm trying to remember if I have the name right. Yeah.
Mike's wheels are turning there. He's like,
I'm a huge George McManus fan, and George had a lot of help with the strip.
Mm-hmm.
So after he died, the guy who drew the Shadow comic strip took over. He was already McManus's assistant, and then one day, maybe 10 years later, 20 years later, the folks at King Features said nobody wants this stuff that looks like it was from the 30s. So they turned it immediately into, Mort Walker style.
Okay.
And they found sort of a nice medium, I think. And the jokes were actually kind of funny, but it just became just another household, strip. And you look back at that stuff from the 20s and 30s, even the 1910s. God, it's beautiful. My God, it's some of the most gorgeous comics art you have ever seen in your life. We're talking Little Nemo and then Bringing Up Father.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bob, we were at GalaxyCon a week or two ago. We got to go to the Billy Ireland Museum and see a lot of originals there. Those were crazy awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I've been gawking at original art all my life, and I'm a personal friend of George Hagenauer's, so I'm stuck. I have to look at it anyway. And every time I see something that was from before I was born, which was 1,000 years ago, I get that sense of history. And I also continue to find that sense as part of what we here call the donut shop. These are the guys who were like 4 generations ago and did all this really cool work and didn't care whether it was going to work or not at first because nobody had done it before and nobody knew. These are the pioneers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tom was with me in the vault with Howard when we went through that tour, which we did mention on the show. And I did apologize to Jenny Robb, the curator of the museum, that we did not warn her that Howard was going to be there.
Let me tell you a story. Can I digress? Major digression.
Sure.
This is a story about Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams.
That is the biggest digression you've ever done. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's not. But they were in my hometown of Chicago because they had to meet with Muhammad Ali's people, with his people. And that's where their offices were and all that. And they wanted to talk about the Superman story that these guys were doing, which seems totally reasonable. They want to, it's just an approval procedure. These are the people who tossed Joe Kubert off that feature. They didn't like Joe's work. They took it to the publisher, Ms. Khan, took it to Neil, and he jumped right in. So they had like the day to kill, and they're staying at a hotel near the Art Institute, which is a beautiful building with unbelievable. If you're a Hopper fan, that's it. You're there. Fabergé eggs, and Neil took Denny through the entire Art Institute, huge operation, and pointed out to Denny what was wrong with each and every That's a quote from Denny, who isn't here to defend himself, but then again, nor is Neil, so I can say what I want.
It's interesting. I'll bring this up because neither of you were there, but last week we had because this is not that far of a leap. We had Tim Seeley and Mitch Gerrits on, and we were talking about how in I think it's at the end of Mr. Miracle, where Mitch puts a whole bunch of people that he knows that are in that are podcasters and stuff like that, and he put them in the book, and the editors like freaked out. They're like, you can't put, these are real people, you can't put them in there. Like I think Jason Mantzoukas and a whole bunch of people are in there, and the editors were like, no, you can't do that. So he was able to kind of reach out to all of them and say, hey, I'm putting you in a book, is it okay? And it worked. And I'm like, what about the cover to Superman versus Muhammad Ali? Like, you're on that cover. Did you get pre-approval?
No. Did I get pre-approval? No. I didn't sign off on anything.
I think you should be
maybe I should sue them. I don't know.
But Tom, you put people in things. I know that you. I mean, besides the cover of things, but you're definitely when you create what people look like, there are certain characters that have, physical appearances, mustaches, I might say. And they just show up.
That's true. I'm glad you're back on your feet.
Thank you. I'm no longer food insecure. Thank goodness.
Tom, you mentioned Kyle Baker. I know we could do 2 hours just on Kyle Baker's stories.
Sure.
But, Kyle did a book called Why I Hate Saturn, which I love.
I am familiar with it. It's in my library.
I love it despite the fact that I'm a character in it.
You are?
Yes, he based the editor character on me, and it kind of even looks like me, except for the fact that he's smoking, and I don't smoke cigarettes, and he was always wearing a tie. I probably did too, but I don't think of myself that way. And I didn't sign off on that one either. So each time they've reprinted it, I've been thinking, I know a bunch of lawyers, but I wouldn't do that to Kyle. Kyle's a good guy.
Yeah, I don't put anyone in who's going to sue. I don't put anyone in who's going to sue.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say we all know, but maybe we don't. Harlan Ellison almost completely destroyed his TV writing career by doing that. He wrote an episode of Man from U.N.C.L.E., and he put all of his science fiction writer friends in there without getting permission from any of them, because they were all friends.
Mm-hmm.
One person, I don't recall who, and maybe I never knew, wasn't that much of a friend that he sued.
Really?
And NBC at that point pulled the show, not the show, but the episode. They didn't rerun the episode. I don't know if they kept it out of the syndication package afterwards. I do believe it's all been cleared up by now and probably several decades ago. But it cost Paramount and Harlan a lot of money and a hell of a lot of grief, because Harlan, in addition to everything else, felt personally betrayed.
I want to just get you 1 second. Somebody else needs to chime in. Are other people getting no sound? Somebody says there's no sound.
I hear you.
We hear each other. If anybody wants to chime in, I know there's a few people watching. Somebody let us know that they can hear us. I'll put it on the banner. So go ahead, keep talking.
I was about to learn. I'm thinking about learning sign language. So I'm serious. So if this happens again, I noticed on my television set, I have one of those smart TVs, right? And they add new apps every 20 minutes. And I was looking at them yesterday, and I saw that they have an app for learning sign language on my TV. And I thought, that's not a bad idea. All right. Well, if Dean can hear us, and yes. I think Sherry said she could hear us?
Sherry can hear us. Robert can hear us. So both. I'm sorry, Paige. I don't know what your issue is there. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a lot of cool stuff. it's weird because Harlan has, in the last 3 weeks, has been a topic of conversation in my world, like for a lot of different reasons. But
he would start out very pleased to hear that.
yeah. Well, what's interesting is that there is, I'm sure he would not be upset. So there's a comic book out there that I love. That I'm sure neither of you read. It's called World Tree. It's written by James Tynion, and there's a family, and everyone in the family is named after is named after the one of the science fiction people. Like one of the people's first name is Asimov, one of the people's names is Ellison, one of the people's name is, and they all there's like 5 or 6 kids in this family. They're all named there's only one of them who's alive of those writers. But that character who was named that is dead. They died in the first issue.
Well,
I don't remember who it was. But I thought that was, first of all, it's really interesting. It's interesting because of the topic of the book, but I highly recommend anybody who wants to read World Tree, go do it. Don't give it to kids. There's a naked girl walking around, but otherwise fine.
We got that in New York.
I understand that. I'm just saying that she's naked and walking around like it's no problem the whole time because she's part of the undernet.
At Times Square, undressed up as Minnie Mouse. With a little thing in her hair and all that other stuff, stark naked.
Who is this?
in
Times Square? Oh, I thought you were talking about somebody else. Never mind.
There's no nudity in Ghost Whiskerers. I'm just letting you know right now.
All right. Well, that's fine. I'm, like I said, I've read Ghost Whiskerers, and I want to say again to everybody, I read the final, before it was put together, but the final look at it when it was colored, and I think my text to Tom was "fuck you."
It was.
It's fuck you very much, wasn't it? You were
it was fuck you because you made me cry again, and Len, it is so good. Yeah, I highly recommend everybody can do it. Yeah, it's 2025, so keep your Eisner nominations ready for the 2026 Eisners.
There's also, I don't know if I've said it anywhere in public yet. There's actually there's a bunny rabbit hidden on every page.
Yeah, I did.
Because one, I like the Richard Scarry book, Cars and Trucks and Things That Go, and there was a little Goldbug character that was hidden on every page. But also, I haven't had an aunt Bunny who was born on Easter, and she passed away while I was working on the book. So I put that in. So there's a bunny on every page, hidden somewhere. I've got the chart that shows where everyone is. So 100
that's
pages.
great. Now on the second printing, you have to draw more bunnies in.
Not to get all Harlan, but if they pay me, we can talk about that.
On the second printing, you can have like a page guide, like at the back of it. Just like find it. I think people should buy 2 of them, one to keep and one to circle all the bunnies.
Yes.
There you go. I think that is your marketing plan. So we got that coming this year. There's some other stuff coming this year that we can't probably talk about. But how was your year? How was your 2024?
It was pretty good. Conventions were good. Travel was good. Work was good. My parents' stuff is my parents' stuff. What?
Kitchen's put back together?
Got a floor.
Got a floor.
My year started off with needing $20,000 worth of repairs to my kitchen that I didn't expect. So I did a Kickstarter project to pay for some of that. I'm finishing up the because they're stacked up there behind my copy of New Frontier. All the commissions that I have to do yet to get everything ready, and I'm trying to record a bunch of the inking, so that when you get the book, there'll be a QR code and you can see a visual of me sketching it out and then me inking it. It won't be on every page, but it'll be on a bunch of them.
So I wanted to ask you about that actually.
Mhm.
Was one of the commissions by a Ms. Green?
Wait.
Was it Alice?
Yes, that was one of them. Yes.
Okay, so I've seen that. She has
Yes.
posted it.
Uh-huh.
And she is looking forward to meeting you. And I have mentioned that when we are in the same place, I will definitely make that introduction happen. She has been on the show. Karen Green commissioned Tom for that process, and he did a beautiful Alice piece.
Well, I mean, the piece is beautiful. I'm not going to no. Some third party who I don't think I'm at liberty to say commissioned it to give to.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
That is awesome. That's even better. Yeah. So
Okay, why aren't you permitted to say who?
Because I notice in her posts that she's not saying who commissioned it or who arranged it. So I don't know if she knows. So I'm not gonna be the one to break the spell.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting thing to say.
Mhm.
And I was not trying to trick you into saying that.
Oh no.
Not me.
Read too many Superman comics, Lois. I know how this works.
Yeah, so I mean that was great. And a lot of, I mean, I've seen a bunch of them. It's great work that you're doing, and that is going to be something that when you see when that's completed, you're going to have the books available at your table,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
for people to get copies of those commissions. But you know, when we're in the same room as Karen, I will make that introduction because she's looking forward to
Please.
meeting you. She was in the same room with you. We do know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I'm in a
'cause she
lot
was
of rooms, Bob.
well, listen, the first time we were in the same room together, she was in that same room.
Yes. Okay.
So,
I think the first time I met her was in Baltimore.
yeah, probably. It was probably that same Baltimore when we met, which was 2014.
Was I wearing a tie?
I didn't meet you. I met Tom.
Okay.
I was not wearing a tie. Well, I wore a tie at the Harveys.
And you were wearing a tie.
Me too.
You were
That's
wearing a
right.
tie. The first time we had a meal together, you were wearing a tie.
Yep.
But all right, enough about us. So, what do you got going on next year?
Oh, well, there's
And let's
the
start
one
with
thing I
January.
can't talk about, and the other thing I can't talk about.
Let's talk about the January.
January, I'm going to France for a couple
All right.
weeks.
What are you doing in France?
I am one of the artists in an art residency at Chateau Orquevaux in the Champagne region of France. So it'll be 2 weeks of me writing and drawing, and hopefully not being interrupted.
How did that happen?
That was
They
going to
had
be
an
my question.
Instagram ad.
They had an Instagram ad. See, look,
Yes.
social media,
Yeah.
you know, just convincing Tom to travel across continents.
Yep. I applied on it. I got a little bit of a scholarship for it. Yeah. And then I'm going to spend an extra couple days out there. I'm glad there was one day where I booked all my travel for 25. I mean, not all the travel I will be doing, but all the travel I'm mostly responsible for. So I got my San Diego tickets and all that kind of stuff. Not New York, because I'm not officially tabling there yet. So I want to wait for that and other variables. But I booked everything, and I'm glad that I took the effort to do, because I was going to go out so I could go to the Louvre, because I've never been, and I know I won't get to see everything, but I want to go for a day. And if I had gone with my original plan, my day at the Louvre would have been the day they were closed, because they're closed on Tuesdays. So I changed everything around. I'm staying a couple days at the end, so I'll get to see Notre Dame, which was closed the last time I was there, and then I'll get to see the Louvre. And then one of the things that I do, I've learned to max out my Hilton Honors card, my credit card, and my business card. So I'm staying at stupidly cool hotels while I'm out there, just burning off Hilton points. I did that because I see you looking Mike without an H. It's okay. Not everybody can wear it. You know how when you go to San Diego and you fly out, it's horrible because you're trying to take a Cleveland amount of people through an Akron-sized airport. And I've never had a flight go well over the last few years leaving. But the little Hilton cards I got gave me a free night anywhere. So I wound up staying at the Hotel del Coronado, the one where they filmed Some Like It Hot. And I stayed there so yeah, I'm trying to max out all the math of doing what I do.
My daughter figured out a way, this is many, many years ago, to make the trip to San Diego a more pleasant experience, which is impossible, except for what she does. Because when she lands in San Diego and they finally find some of her luggage, she'll put it in the cab and tell the cab driver where her hotel is and tell him to stop at In-N-Out Burger first. So no matter what horrors are happening on the airplane or at the airports, you have a goal.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Oh, I highly recommend it. It's wonderful.
All right, so you're on different platforms, so I'm putting this up here so that you guys can
cool.
touch base. But yeah, so Jen's fantastic.
That's very good.
Jen is a fantastic artist. I have Jen's art actually right here. So
remember Bob? He used to look so good.
So here, this is Jen's art.
Oh, that's cool.
This is a box of matches.
She drew it on your box of matches, or
no, she made a box of matches, and I bought it at Ithacon from her.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'll be there this year. I'll buy some matches.
Well, if she's there, you should. So what are you hoping to accomplish at this, kind of retreat seminar situation that you're going to go to?
Oh, there are 2 or 3 writing projects that I would like to have the clarity and the time to really work on. And I would like to draw a couple things that aren't, like everything I draw is comics or cartoons, and I love that part, but I'd like to not draw something that I'm planning on drawing, if that makes any sense. Like not working on a project, but like seeing what I come up with while I'm there. And they have life drawing classes, which I don't take anywhere near enough of. So I'm looking forward to that and just kind of hanging out with other creatives.
Yeah. Naked.
How long are you going to be there?
It depends. Excuse me, what?
How long are you going to be there? In
about 2 weeks.
Seems like a lot to squeeze into 2 weeks, but boy, it sounds like a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. Even if I can, like for the writing stuff, if I can just get the bones of it down more than I have, like it's especially around this time of year, there's enough stuff going on where it's hard to get from the beginning of the thought to the end of the thought without someone interrupting it, or something interrupting you. So, like one of the projects I'm working on has an action venture bent to it, and just like trying to figure out all the set pieces and the stagecraft and what you have to do to get from, like, it's kind of my George Lucas theory that it's really easy to write that the first 3 movies are the corruption of Anakin Skywalker, and then it's really hard to actually write the corruption of Anakin Skywalker. So wrote a great pitch. Now I gotta make that, make the stuff I wrote right well.
Yeah. Now you have to deliver.
Yeah.
I think every one of us has gotten into a situation where we found a project so appealing, or it's been our pet project for 100 years, that by the time we finally land the opportunity to do it, it's like, holy shit, what was I thinking?
Yeah, no, I'm in there right now. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
We're gonna be talking because I have some I'm working on something. But so you're going to Europe in in January for this.
January in France.
You're gonna stay in America for the rest of your year, or maybe something else?
Oh. No, but I haven't officially been announced at the.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
There's at least one other international show so far that I'm supposed to be at.
Yeah, but it hasn't been announced. I thought I didn't realize it hadn't been announced.
That's okay. Yeah. No, I've been talking about it a lot.
Well,
you're going to MongoCon.
What's that? MongoCon?
MongoCon, yeah.
See the forest of Arborea.
It'd be beautiful. I'd go.
Hell, yeah.
I didn't realize that Sam Jones was as young as he was when they made that movie. I think he was only like 26.
How young was he?
I think he was 26.
Well,
like he's always been 40.
More recently in the flesh.
What?
You've seen him more recently in the flesh, I would assume, because he does a lot of conventions.
In the flesh.
It's been a couple of years since I've been at a show with him, but I mean I have met him.
Yeah, he was at Baltimore this year.
Oh, I didn't see him.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody at Baltimore. You have to remember I was in
you were
all weekend
doing panels. Yeah.
I did not. I forgot that he was. Yeah, I didn't see him. I ran in my greatest. I have two great Sam Jones experiences. One, I was at Terrificon, and he stopped at Afua Richardson's booth while we were talking to her to just like shout her out and just like say, "Oh man, you're awesome," which was crazy because then I took like a little picture. Flash Gordon. The other time was when you were with me, Mike. It was the night that we went to Carrabba's or whatever it was when we were in Secaucus. We went out with John and John Workman and John Ostrander and all of them.
Right, I remember, which is weird.
We were walking in. Sam was walking out, and I was wearing my comics Eat Sleep Comics Repeat shirt, one of my favorites. And he like totally like I walked right into Sam Jones. And he said, "Yeah, comics. That's why we're here. It's great." And I'm like, "All right, it's Flash Gordon. He can do whatever he wants."
Yeah, I think that's true. It's amazing how that movie, his Flash Gordon movie, has been such a success after its release.
It's terrible. It is so bad. It's such a bad movie.
There are parts of it that are great.
Yes,
but okay. So I really like the movie, but that was my
first
exposure to Flash Gordon.
What's that?
It was my first real exposure to Flash Gordon. That and the Filmation cartoons. Mm-hmm. So, but there's just so much to it. Like it's so big and pretty and loud, and it never takes a breath.
I love it.
Yeah.
But if you watch it with a critical eye, you're like, "Oh my god!"
If you get a chance and you happen to have, a day open, a whole day, watch that. At least the first Flash Gordon serial from the 30s. It at the time was by far the most expensive serial ever made. They spent twice as much money on that serial, Republic Pictures, as they did on any other serial. And you can see it. Every dollar, every penny is on the screen. The casting is exquisite. Charles Middleton, who was Chico Marx's prosecutor in Duck Soup, plays Ming the Merciless, and he is still, in my mind, the definitive movie villain.
All right. That would take a lot for it to move off of Max von Sydow. I will have to.
Yeah, and I love Max von Sydow's work. He made the Mackenzie Brothers movie work, but Charles Middleton was just defined the part. He defined the part.
I find it difficult or surprising that the definitive description of Max von Sydow's work is Strange Brew.
I'd sometimes throw out stuff like that to see.
I understand.
Judge Dredd, The Force Awakens, all the classics.
Strange Brew. Please, let's not forget. Listen, I'm still not over Dave Thomas's shade thrown at Del Close in Mad Men for Mad Men only.
That's interesting.
It was, I don't know why they had him in the movie, because
Well,
he was not a
what's
fan.
interesting about that, since I don't think we've talked about this. Dave has a reputation for being a little kind of crusty. But it was he who told the world that it was Dell who came up with the concept of SCTV, the TV series. And he did it in total Del Close-like fashion in the cab on the way from the Toronto airport to their offices. That's when he came up with the whole thing. So it's a little weird to me because he said it with great respect.
It's interesting because, I mean, if you see, like, we talk about that movie a lot. I talked about it recently off air. But yeah, it definitely felt that way. I have recently also just somehow seen some SCTV clips, which are so good.
It's the best sketch comedy show in the history of flickered images. Literally, it is just brilliant.
So you have a bunch of shows coming up. Obviously, you have we have Ghost Whiskerers coming out. Is there anything else is there any sort of time frames on where we are with the birds, with the Angry Birds?
Angry Birds is later next year, I believe.
Okay.
Cupid's Arrows 2 is finally going to be out on press.
Okay, great.
I think I took care of the last printing problem 2 or 3 weeks ago, so that should be finally coming out.
Issue. Was that the 10mm issue?
Wait, which? Yes, that wasn't the problem I dealt with, but yes, that printer, that thing. I want to have another Love and Capes out. I've got 5 pages done on the first one, and then I haven't been able to get back to it.
When did you finish the 5th page?
March.
Okay, so it's been a little while since you.
Been a little while, yeah. And I've got like the next 5 pages.
I've already heard about the next 5 pages, so I'm ready for them to be drawn.
So this is a 300-page graphic novel that will take you 60 years to finish.
Well,
right?
No, Love and Capes will be the next one. Will probably be about 100 pages because I think I'm going to do the Wedding of Darkblade. So that should be over the next year and a half, if I can clear the other stuff out.
How is that for you? I mean, it's interesting because you'll always be known as Love and Capes. Like that's part of who, as you're introduced from here to the end of time, for the most part, he created Love and Capes. Like that's going to be one of the things that people always will talk about. How does that feel for you to be so tied to that thing that you built?
Oh, I've never thought about it that way, but I'm totally happy with that.
It's the easy way to describe you. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it is the biggest piece of work that I have. It's very consistent, and I'm very proud of it. So it's got a little bit of everything that's been in everything else that I've done. Like some of the romantic comedy stuff was in Long Distance. Some of the magical, time travel stuff was in Time and Vine. Like in a lot of ways, Love and Capes is the source code for everything, because it was the thing that I did that worked that I could expand out and start playing with all sorts of stuff. It's America's Thom Zahler, Robert. America's Thom Zahler. But that's a good body of work to point to. Like I'm uncomfortable saying anything's the best thing but it's the most me thing that I've done.
It's also, your signature work. And it's once you got that, you either look at it and go, geez, I got to do something bigger and better, or thank you. One of those two responses.
And please understand, it was not. It's no way a negative. Not that you're going to do.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. Like for just to kind of put it in other terms, Howard Chaykin is always going to be known for American Flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are other things he doesn't want to be known for, and people may think of that, but it's easy. The easy source code for Howard Chaykin is American Flag.
Sure.
Just like the easy source code for you is
it's probably the earliest work of his that he acknowledges.
I acknowledge earlier work of his.
I liked him from Star Reach.
I understand. I have Cody Starbucks stuff.
Yeah.
Howard
doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand why I liked him from that.
So what are you looking for? What do you hope to get out of 2025?
Oh, well, along with finishing the stuff that I'm starting, I want to do more stuff. I want to do more of my stuff. I would love. I had a goal. What was it for the beginning of 23, which was I wanted to have someone who didn't know me hire me for something. That happened with Storm King. And there were like two other things that happened like right in a row. So like I'd like to write something for one of the other publishers. Like I'd like to work on a licensed character. From
Angry Birds.
Oh yeah, but I would Angry Birds. I'm executing Angry Birds stuff. Like and I know the window is passed, and Bob saw me try to pitch some of this when we were in Baltimore. Like DC does those romance collections for they do the Valentine's special, and I just feel like it's a missed opportunity for them to have the guy who writes Love and Capes write any of a billion combinations of characters at DC for one of those. Like I would like to do something like that. I don't. Yeah, at this point, like I don't want my career to be working entirely for someone else. Like I want to do as many personal important projects to me as I can, but it doesn't mean I don't like playing with other people's toys now and then. So I'd like to do. I haven't done that in a bit. Angry Birds, yeah.
It's not an either or situation,
right? Yeah.
And I know younger folk, those kids today. Some feel that like if you're known in the independent world, which means not DC or Marvel, then you should never cross over into the DC and Marvel world. And I think that is completely full of shit.
Oh yeah.
I was there when Tim Truman was physically attacked by a fan in a hotel lobby for signing on to do Hawkman over at DC. Now Tim just wanted to do this beautiful 3-issue, 48-page per issue, slick paper tribute to Garth Fox, and it was beautiful. It was a very, very good story. But it didn't occur to him that anybody might feel that he was selling out, because he wasn't. He was doing what he wanted to do, and if you're going to do Hawkman, you're going to be doing it for DC. If you want to do Doctor Strange, you're going to be doing it for Marvel. That's just the way it is. You can decide not to, but doing so doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. Doing so means you're a storyteller.
Yeah. The one thing I'm trying to do is make sure that I don't get so tied up in any one or the other that I can't do. Like I love working on My Little Pony. I would love for them to figure out a way to bring back some of the. Like I'd work on the new stuff, but I've got a feeling, and I don't have any inside information on this, but given the lack of success of Generation 5, I've got to figure they're going to figure a way to bring back Generation 4, which is stuff I worked on. And like it's fun to dip in and out of that and work with those characters and that fan base and everything that comes with it. I just don't want it to be. I don't want it to be all that I do. So like, I'm not arguing with you. I totally agree that I am vast. I contain multitudes. I think that like you've seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, right? When Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are having their conversation, and Ben Affleck says, "First you do the action movie, and then you do the gay serial killer movie, and then you do an action movie, and I feel like it's like that. You go back and forth, from one to the other."
It's an apt analogy.
Hmm?
I missed that.
You said it's an apt analogy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that working for DC or Marvel was, gay serial killer versus.
No, DC and Marvel would be the action films.
No, I don't think so.
Well, we're supposed to be in the business of entertaining people with whatever it is that bubbles up in our brains, and we try to maneuver that in ways that are commercially acceptable, at least up to a point. And quite frankly, working for smaller publishers entails a certain financial risk or commitment. And every once in a while, getting a little feed in from people with some cash helps you do everything, particularly if they're letting you do what you do well anyway.
Yeah. I used to say that Love and Cape, My Little Pony pays for my house now. Love and Capes pays for my house later.
That's fair.
That's good. Yeah, that's great. So you're going to be busy all this year coming up.
I hope so. Yeah, like I made a conscious effort a couple of years ago to try to live my life. I don't want to live my life in fifth gear. I want to live my life in fourth because I want to have headroom, and I want to be able to enjoy the stuff that I'm working on. Like when I was working on Ghost Whiskerers, I wanted very much to be able to enjoy the process and not just have to bang out pages to hit a deadline. I was very fortunate that for the most part I was able to do that. Like there's some part where it's always work, but I didn't want it to be so much work where I didn't get to take a breath and enjoy that I was doing it, especially for how personal it was. So I'm like, I want to do more stuff, but I'm trying to be cautious about how much bandwidth I'm committing to anything so that I can make sure that they're all being done to the level that I want them to be done.
But your commitment to giving yourself the space you need is the important part. It's the hard part, is to realize that you have to actually work at that part too. And that's how you save your sanity. And ultimately that's how you make deadlines too.
Yep.
Well, we're kind of getting to the end here, but I want to talk about Ghost Whiskerers. But I do want to kind of bring this up because someone in the comments, our good friend Robert, kind of asked this, and you answered him in the comments. But for everybody who's watching, what's your process? Do you, when you go ahead and formulate a story, what is your methodology?
Robert, that's the best question I have seen in a long time. That's a great question.
Well,
it's a great question. Some of it depends on the longer answer. Is that some of it depends on the project, and I'm going to make a comparison that's going to sound super arrogant. I don't want it to be like that, so I'm hanging a lantern on it before I do it. Supposedly, when Ron Howard did Apollo 13, one of the reasons he was designed for that project, because you know how they did everything on the Vomit Comet to get all the weightless scenes. They took people up in an airplane that was built to simulate weightlessness. Ron Howard can think directly in 45-second scenes because he's grown up in film so much that he doesn't have to translate, how do I take this part of the story and shoot it and film it and do it? Like it's all one motion to him. Kind of the same way I've been reading comics and watching like that cadence is built into me. Like when I pitch a script, I'm usually within 2 pages of where I need to be. Any time that I wrote any of the animation stuff, I was within a couple pages. Like like there's a metronome, and even when I was doing spec scripts for like writing Star Trek stuff, the plot that I came up with was within a couple pages of page count. Like I wasn't wildly over or under. It was like I have that figured out. So there's an internal process that I don't understand where when I pitch a thing, I've got a pretty good clock for about how big it'll be. It only works on stuff that I'm familiar with, because when I did Warning Label, that was supposed to be 26 chapters. It wound up being 39. Some of that was that Webtoon liked it enough they allowed me to expand it. It would have been longer chapters, probably a little more truncated, so I'm glad I had the space, but that was a new format to figure out. When I did Cupid's Arrows, it was a lot more natural after that point, where I could figure out how to do it. So I tend to figure out the beginning. I always have the end so that I know where I'm aiming for. And then I'll know a couple things in the middle. And then I just trust I'm going to figure it out as I go. Time in Vine was very much like that. There are entire plot lines that came about as I was writing it. And if you've read it, and not to spoil it,
and doing research.
And doing research, yes. So much fun research. But the way things work out on the final trip, that math was completely accidental and not in the original pitch. But then also, like, depending on what I'm pitching, like when I pitch My Little Pony, I would have to write a much tighter outline. One of the projects that we're not talking about has a much tighter outline that I presented that, when I sold it. When I sit down to do something on my own, I don't necessarily have to have that sequenced out. Ghost Whiskerers was designed to be, it's a graphic novel, but basically the length was 5 comic books. So they're 20-page chapters, and when I came up with the 5 stories that linked together to make the overall graphic novel, I think there's one that's 2 pages longer and one that's 2 pages shorter. But other than that, it's exactly 20-page cadence.
That's awesome. We again, we're so happy to have you here. We will have you back in the new year, of course. Most likely once the thing that we can't talk about, we can talk about. But we're happy that you continue to come back on the show and support us, and we support you, and hope you have a great new year. And remember, to everybody, that Ghost Whiskerers, you can order it at your local comic shop up until Monday, and probably after that, if you just tell them you want it, they'll try and figure out a way to get it. But the final order cutoff is important for this Monday. It's available in comic shops on February 5th and everywhere on February 18th online.
Tom, you're one of the handful of major comics creators who is mostly known for his independent work. And again, independent meaning not.
Oh, yeah.
And I respect that, because when you started, that was almost impossible. It was almost an impossible thing to pull off. And it took a lot of people to get out there and do their own stuff in order to create an atmosphere where it was allowed to do your own stuff. That makes you a pioneer.
Thank you. There were a lot of great people ahead of me, and the technology changed a lot too. Like I would not have been able to do Love and Capes as a color comic book 5 years before. Like Photoshop and printing prices coming down made that entirely possible.
Right. And that's true for all communications media. Not that the prices go down necessarily, but it changes. It changes all the time.
Well, and all the 90s and 2000s science fiction stuff that we used to watch, like those shows would have been prohibitively expensive for a network to do 15 years before, and then you've got a Sci-Fi Channel budget and you're doing Stargate.
Right. I mean, those budgets are a lot smaller now.
I hope we haven't lost our appetite for wonderful cheapness.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while, I just want to see just big monsters, slow-mo battling one another, and on a $10 budget. I want to see what happens.
Just
Not often,
look,
once
just-
in a while.
go watch Clash of the Titans.
I can watch like 1960s Doctor Who.
Well, there you go too.
And it works for me because it's wonderful cheapness. That was the idea. That's what they had at the time, and this is what they did with it.
Yeah, and if you care about the story, you don't care about the effects.
It's the same thing about Flash Gordon, as we mentioned earlier. Like wonderful cheapness. Like that movie. I can't bring my kids to watch that. They can't see that and enjoy it because they're looking at the cheapness. Whereas I'm looking at it and I'm enjoying the cheapness.
Mhm.
Right. So
there was a moment in my life when I actually first saw King Kong. Now you would think that I'd grown up with it, but I'm too old for that. I grew up when it was still under copyright and all that. And when I don't know how old I was, 10, 12, probably not that old, because Forey Ackerman turned me onto it in Famous Monsters of Filmland. And I'm watching this movie made in the late 30s with special effects that were made in the late 30s, and it was exciting as anything I had seen on television or in the movies at that point in time or for decades after. You have to look at things in the perspective of their time and create to those standards.
Oh yeah, and
So,
like you participate. It's a little bit like live theater, in that
Mhm.
the effects in live theater are not the effects in film. But Wicked worked great on Broadway for years with what would be clunky special effects compared to what the movie did, but nobody cares.
Right.
absolutely.
Absolutely right.
All right.
Tom, thank you.
Thank you so
Oh,
much
my
for being
pleasure.
here, Tom.
Great way to end 2024.
I agree. I quite agree. And I look forward to seeing you at some godforsaken convention or another, but hopefully at a meal that actually is better. Now, Dean's been watching Wagon Train. Yes, that's exactly what the rumor is. The theory is that he said it was Wagon Train in space.
That's fair.
Yeah,
we
I don't know who the doctor was on Wagon Train.
As far as shows that can't be announced, there is very good possibility that you will find all three of us at a show in the Midwest sometime this spring, and we will have that meal there.
Oh, then you have to join us for lunch, which will be 1,000 miles away.
We'll have to think about that. I don't know. He usually leaves South Sunday. We'll figure that out, though.
Figure it out.
All right. Thanks. We'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you
Thank
later.
you very much,
Great
Tom.
seeing All right.
Yeah, nice seeing you.
All right,
Wow.
folks.
Good way to end a hell of a year.
Absolutely.
I have to tell you, I have had the time of my life. I fully expect to have the time of my life again next year. Bob, thank you very much for providing me with this platform and with the ability to work with you on this on a live matter. I've just enjoyed every second of it. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. The show means a lot to me. Our viewers mean a lot. Sharing what we do on the show is very important to me. As we continue to grow over the next year, I will cherish every moment of it. We're hitting close to our time for tonight, but I do want to let people know what's coming, because we are going to take a 2-week break because the calendar decided to put freaking holidays on Tuesdays for the next 2 weeks. But immediately after that, on January 7th, the great Jamar Nicholas, he loves it when you call him Dr. J, will be on the show. I will be calling him Dr. J. He's going to be on the show. We're going to talk about Leon. We're going to talk about his work with the National Cartoonist Society. He got a promotion to like first vice president or something like that. Dino, we love you. We'll talk to you in the new year, I'm sure, on the show and in person. But Jamar is already committed. We've locked him into the first link. I already have a close lock on the second week. There's a bunch of people out there. We're kind of working on scheduling that we're going to have. We're going to be here as many Tuesdays in a row as we can get. And I will tell you really quick before we have to go. The reason I call Jamar Dr. J is because one time he's a podcaster in his own right, and he was doing a podcast, and he said that he always wanted to grow up to be Dr. J.
Aha.
But he is a J, so I call him Doc, and that's how it goes.
I see. Well, that's very nice of you. The beautiful thing about these conversations that we have, they're not interviews, folks. They're conversations. And
yes, and that is true. That's what I like about our show. It's what I like about the way we do these things. This is, we talk about what people have going on, but it's not. It's it's conversations about the things we love, what brings us joy, and we'll continue to do that.
One of the other great joys of doing this show is that we get to work with friends, people that we know, and I get to meet new people that I don't know. You may, but I don't. And we have some stalwarts there who had been friends, are still friends, and have been very generous with their time and energy to both Pop Culture Squad and SquadCast. You keep on seeing Dean's name up there. Dean, I love you too. You are a wonderful human being, and I thank you for all of the support you've given us and all the friendship you've given me, all the way back to American Flag. And I want everybody to have a phenomenal 2025. It's going to take work, but we can do it.
All right. I agree. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's. We will see you in 2025, and we will have a great time.
Yo Saturnalia.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?